Sometimes the most beautiful systems are the ones we do not notice. We walk past them every day without realizing we are surrounded by quiet order and ancient logic. Nature, in its fullest meaning, is not just trees or oceans or clouds. It is everything that is not artificial. It is the arrangement of life and matter and energy without human interference. A system that existed before we were born and will continue long after we are gone. Nature includes the soil under your feet and the air in your lungs, the curve of a leaf, the instinct of a bird, the path of a river, and the slow weathering of stone. But nature is not chaos. It may look wild, even unpredictable, but beneath it lies structure, a kind of language, an organization that works across scale and time, quietly holding the world together. Nature organizes itself, not through hierarchy, but through patterns. It builds with repetition and feedback, trial and error. It creates balance, not by eliminating extremes, but by allowing every part to influence the whole. A forest, for instance, is not a single entity. It is a layered system of light and shade, birth and decay, predator and prey. From the fungi beneath the soil to the wind in the highest branches, everything plays a role. No part is separate from the rest. One of the most important ideas in understanding nature is systems thinking. That means nothing acts alone. The ant and the oak tree and the thunderstorm are all pieces in a larger puzzle. Energy flows through them. Matter cycles between them. Time shapes them, and they adapt to each other. What happens in one part of a system eventually affects the rest, just as a change in temperature can alter a growing season, or the disappearance of a single insect can ripple through an entire food web. Nature organizes with resilience. That means it is not static. It bends instead of breaking. After a fire, a forest regrows. After a flood, the river carves a new path. This is not accidental. Nature builds systems that learn, that correct themselves, that find new ways forward without a blueprint. The rules are simple, but the outcomes are endlessly complex. You can see it in the spiral of a shell, in the branching of trees, in the migration of animals, in the rise and fall of populations. These are not coincidences. They are nature's memory written into form. Even decay serves purpose. Fallen leaves feed the soil. Rotting logs shelter new life. Death in nature is never the end. It is part of the design. To understand how nature works is to see that we are not outside of it. We are inside its logic. We are shaped by it just as surely as the wind shapes stone. The laws that organize a forest are the same laws that govern your own breath. And when you begin to see these patterns, something inside you softens. You begin to trust the rhythm. You begin to rest inside the system. And slowly, as the world continues spinning in silence, you fall asleep. Now we gently move into energy, the first law beneath all living beings. It is the quiet force behind every heartbeat and sunrise. Though we cannot touch it or see it directly, it shapes everything we experience. Energy is what allows a tree to grow, a wave to crash, a breeze to cool your skin. It is the thread that weaves through all of nature, binding the still and the moving, the visible and the hidden. The first law of thermodynamics tells us that energy cannot be created or destroyed. It only shifts from one form to another. This law is not just a rule of science. It is a truth nature obeys in every breath, in every storm, in every growing root. When sunlight falls on a leaf, the energy from the sun is captured and turned into sugar. When an animal eats the plant, that sugar becomes fuel. When the animal moves, heat escapes into the air. Nothing is lost. It is all part of a flowing exchange, silent and steady. Nature does not waste. A river does not make new energy. It carries the push of gravity. Wind is not created from nothing. It moves because the sun warms the earth unevenly. In the same way, the fire that burns in your muscles when you run is not new. It is transformed sunlight carried to you through plants, through food, through time. The energy in your body has traveled far to reach you. Even when life ends, energy is not erased. A fallen tree releases its warmth to the air, its structure to the soil, its nutrients to the next generation of plants. This is nature's quiet genius. Nothing is thrown away, everything is reused. The energy that once stirred a butterfly's wing might someday help lift a blade of grass. And so, nature's design is built on transformation, not on destruction or invention, but on flow. From photosynthesis to metabolism, from the motion of tectonic plates to the warmth of a mammal's body, energy moves like a story told from one form to another. It never truly ends. It simply changes roles. To live in nature is to join this pattern. Your body, your breath, your rest, your movement, they are all moments in this cycle. And sleep itself is part of energy's rhythm, a time to pause, to restore, to let the quiet work continue inside your cells. You do not need to do anything now. Energy will still move. Nature will still balance. The world will still turn. And as you lie here, wrapped in the stillness of night, you are being carried by a law older than memory. The same force that lifts the sun each day now gently settles you into rest. Now we slowly turn to the sun, Earth's endless engine, the origin of almost all energy that flows through the living world. Though it sits far beyond our touch, the sun shapes everything we know. It warms the oceans, drives the winds, feeds the plants, and guides the rhythms of sleeping and waking. It has done so for billions of years, long before the first breath was drawn and long before names were given to light. The sun is a star, an ordinary one by cosmic standards, but for Earth it is everything. At its core, immense pressure fuses hydrogen into helium, releasing light and heat. This process, called nuclear fusion, creates the radiant energy that travels across space to reach our planet. When sunlight arrives, it does not just brighten the day. It begins a chain of events that touches every part of nature. Leaves absorb it. Winds shift because of it. Snow melts, water flows, seeds sprout. Life, as we know it, is sunlight transformed into form. When a tree lifts its branches to the sky, it is seeking light. Inside each leaf, sunlight is captured and turned into sugar. That sugar becomes the body of the tree. It thickens the bark, extends the roots, feeds the animals who nibble on its fruit. In this way, sunlight is passed from organism to organism, each one borrowing a little before handing it along. This energy is never made new. It begins with the sun and flows outward like a silent message passed from life to life. The sun also shapes time. Its rising and setting mark the days. Its position in the sky tells birds when to migrate and plants when to bloom. The tilt of Earth toward or away from the sun brings seasons, each one a signal for a different kind of growth or rest. This rhythm is so old and steady that every living thing has adjusted to it. Even you. The cycle of sleep and wakefulness inside your body is tuned to light. A flicker of morning sun tells your brain it is time to begin again. But the sun does more than feed and guide. It also stirs the atmosphere. The uneven heating of land and sea causes winds. Warm air rises, cool air rushes in. Clouds form, rain falls. The shape of every climate and the pattern of every storm begins with sunlight. In this way, the sun is not just distant fire. It is the engine behind the motion of oceans and the whisper of air across your skin. To understand the sun is to understand that life does not begin in darkness. It begins in warmth, in radiance, and as you rest now, eyes closed and breath slow, the light of the sun that once passed through a leaf and into a fruit has now reached you. It has become part of your cells, your thoughts, your dreams. Let yourself drift. The engine keeps turning. Now we enter the flow of water, the molecule that moves the world. It is simple in form, just 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen, yet it holds the power to shape continents, nourish forests, and carry life from one breath to the next. Water moves quietly through every part of nature, slipping through the air, pooling beneath the soil, drifting through cells, and always returning again. Wherever life is found, water is there too. Water has a memory. It falls as rain soaks into the ground, rises again as mist, and forms clouds that drift across the sky. This endless journey, called the water cycle, connects oceans to mountains, rivers to roots, and clouds to creatures. When you sip a glass of water, you are drinking something that may have once been locked in ice, flowed through a forest stream, or fallen from the sky in another century. Water is ancient, and it remembers every place it has been. Nature depends on water not just to survive, but to move. Inside a leaf, water carries minerals upward from the roots, feeding the plant as sunlight turns it into food. Inside your body, water flows in blood and lymph, bathing every cell and carrying away what is no longer needed. In rivers, it carves valleys and shapes the land, pushing slowly and steadily over time. And in the sky, water becomes clouds, blocking light or releasing storms. In every form, it is always in motion. Water also holds heat. More than almost any other substance, it can absorb warmth from the sun and hold on to it. That is why oceans regulate the planet's temperature, keeping days and nights from becoming too extreme. It is why coastal places feel milder and why the deep sea stays stable. Even in your own body, water buffers your temperature, allowing you to walk in sun or shadow without losing balance. And water is a solvent, a substance that dissolves. It pulls minerals from rocks, carries nutrients to roots, and transports oxygen through blood. It allows chemical reactions to happen in the spaces between molecules. Without this ability, life could not take shape, cells would not function, energy could not move, thought itself would be impossible. Every signal in your brain depends on water's ability to hold and carry what cannot be seen. To understand water is to see connection. It binds things without string. It flows around obstacles without force. It moves patiently, and yet it carves stone. It is present in thunder and in silence, in tears and in oceans, in the weight of clouds and the stillness of snow. Water listens to gravity, to temperature, to the pull of roots and the call of thirst. As you settle into rest, remember that water flows through you too. Every breath you take adds moisture to the air. Every beat of your heart moves water through your veins. Even now, in stillness, the world continues to move, carried gently by the quiet strength of water. Now we gently rise into the atmosphere, the breathable veil wrapped around the planet. It is invisible, but always present, pressing gently against your skin, moving through your lungs, and carrying the voices of wind and weather. Though it seems empty, the air around you is full of motion and matter. Molecules swirl in endless currents, shaped by temperature, pressure, and time. The atmosphere is not a still shell. It is alive with breath. Earth's atmosphere is made of layers, each with its own patterns and purpose. The troposphere hugs the ground, where clouds form and weather unfolds. Above it lies the stratosphere, home to the ozone layer that shields life from harsh sunlight. Higher still are the mesosphere and thermosphere, thin and wide, where the sky turns dark and auroras flicker. At the very edge lies the exosphere, where air becomes space and particles drift into silence. Air is a mixture, not a single thing. Nitrogen makes up most of it, followed by oxygen, then a small collection of other gases like argon and carbon dioxide. Each one plays a role. Oxygen feeds fire and life. Carbon dioxide helps plants grow. Water vapor rises and falls with temperature, forming clouds, rain, and snow. Together, these gases balance each other, adjusting quietly to the needs of the world. The atmosphere moves constantly. Warm air rises, cool air sinks, and winds are born. These winds shape weather systems, carry seeds, lift birds, and stir the surface of the seas. Storms gather where heat and moisture collide. Breezes drift gently where land meets water. Everything that grows listens to the movement of air, bending with it, blooming by it, breathing through it. Even the whisper of leaves or the stillness of dusk is part of this larger pattern. The air also protects. It softens sunlight and keeps warmth from escaping too quickly at night. It catches meteors before they strike the ground. It carries the scent of flowers and the call of animals. It allows sound to travel and clouds to form. Without it, Earth would be a silent, frozen rock, too hot by day and too cold by night. The atmosphere is not just air, it is shelter. And yet, for all its strength, it is thin. Most of the atmosphere lies within just a few kilometers of the surface. From space, it looks like a faint blue line, a fragile boundary that keeps life alive. It reminds us how delicately Earth is balanced, how much depends on something we cannot see. As you breathe slowly now, remember that each breath connects you to the forest, the ocean, the mountain, the rain. The same air that rustled through ancient trees now fills your lungs. The same molecules that rose from a wave or drifted through a desert now rest in your chest. You are held gently by the atmosphere, rocked in its rhythm, carried by its quiet motion. Let the breath carry you deeper into sleep. Now we slowly arrive at gravity, the quiet force that holds oceans, trees, and weather in place. It does not announce itself with sound or color. It does not flicker like light or rush like wind. But it is always there, shaping every step you take, every drop of rain that falls, every branch that reaches upward against the pull. Gravity is not loud, it is steady. Gravity is the attraction between objects with mass. The Earth pulls everything toward its center. You feel this pull as weight. It keeps your feet on the ground, your drink in the glass, the clouds wrapped around the planet. Without gravity, nothing would hold together. Atoms would drift, rivers would float apart. The world as we know it would not form, but because of gravity, everything stays near everything else. It is the reason stars form, the reason planets orbit, the reason the moon dances with the tides. On Earth, gravity gives shape to the atmosphere, hugging it close to the surface. It guides the flow of water from high to low, sending rivers to the sea. It anchors soil, allowing roots to dig and trees to rise. It pulls the rain from clouds and snow from the sky. Even the path of the wind is shaped by gravity. As air warms and rises, it cools and falls again, circling in a quiet loop. In the ocean, gravity works with the moon to create tides. The moon's gentle pull lifts the water as Earth turns beneath it. This rising and falling shapes shorelines, nourishes coastal life, and reminds us that nothing in nature is still. In your own body, gravity helps move blood and fluid, guiding the systems that support your balance and sense of direction. When you lie down, your body rests more evenly, the pull softens, your heartbeat shifts, gravity continues, but it no longer demands motion. It becomes a gentle pressure, familiar and grounding. Trees respond to gravity too. Their roots grow downward, their trunks upward. This response, called gravitropism, allows them to anchor and rise at the same time. The same happens in seeds. As soon as a seed senses gravity, it knows which way is down and where the sky begins. From that moment, growth has direction. To understand gravity is to understand stability. It holds things together without touching them. It works across distance without sound. And though it is always pulling, it does not hurry. It moves patiently, waiting for the right time, shaping the long history of mountains and rivers and the curve of a falling leaf. As you lie still now, gravity holds you too. You are resting in its embrace, safe on a spinning planet, part of a quiet arrangement that never lets go. Let yourself be heavy. Let your body rest. Gravity will carry you through the night, steady and unchanged, like the tide that always returns. Now we begin to follow the carbon cycle, how life breathes in and out. It is a quiet pattern that connects every leaf, every animal, every gust of wind, and every buried stone. Carbon is one of the most essential building blocks of life. It forms the backbone of molecules that make up living things. But it is not still. It moves constantly, flowing through air, water, land, and life in a continuous exchange. Carbon exists in many forms. It is found in carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, in sugars inside plants, in shells at the bottom of the ocean, and in coal deep beneath the ground. These different forms are part of a larger journey. Each time a plant captures carbon from the air, each time an animal eats that plant, and each time something dies and decays, carbon changes form and location. The cycle is long and steady, sometimes fast, like a breath, sometimes slow, like a fossil forming over millions of years. Plants begin this story. Through photosynthesis, they absorb carbon dioxide from the air and use sunlight to turn it into sugar. This sugar becomes leaves, stems, roots, and fruits. When animals eat the plants, that carbon becomes part of them too. It becomes muscle and bone, fur and feather. Every breath taken by a living creature releases some of that carbon back into the air. In this way, carbon travels from air to life and back again, over and over. But not all carbon returns quickly. Some gets buried deep underground. As ancient plants and animals are covered by layers of earth, their carbon is trapped and transformed into coal, oil, or natural gas. These are called fossil fuels. When they are burned, the stored carbon is released again into the atmosphere, rejoining the fast-moving part of the cycle. This return is powerful and fast, shifting the balance of carbon in the air. Carbon also dissolves into oceans, where it moves between water and living things. Shells made by marine creatures hold carbon, and when those shells settle on the sea floor, they become part of the planet's memory. Volcanoes, too, release carbon from deep within the earth, adding to the slow rhythm of the geologic cycle. What makes the carbon cycle beautiful is its balance. Nature does not store too much in one place. It shares and recycles, adjusting gently. But when too much carbon is released too quickly, the balance can shift. The air becomes warmer, weather changes. Oceans absorb more than they can hold. Understanding the carbon cycle helps us see how tightly life is connected to the air we breathe and the choices we make. As you rest now, remember that the carbon in your body may once have been part of a tree or a wave or a bird's feather drifting on the wind. You are part of the cycle too, breathing in and out with the rhythm of the earth. Now we gently shift into the nitrogen cycle, feeding life silently from the shadows of the air and the depths of the soil. Nitrogen is everywhere. It makes up most of the air we breathe, yet it moves through nature in quiet, careful ways. Plants need it to grow. Animals need it to build proteins. Every cell depends on it. But nitrogen cannot be used in its raw form. It must be captured, changed, and shared through a patient exchange that happens almost invisibly. In the air, nitrogen is stable and unreactive. Plants cannot pull it directly from the atmosphere. They need help. Certain bacteria living in soil or in the roots of special plants like legumes are able to fix nitrogen. They take it from the air and convert it into forms that other living things can use. This process, called nitrogen fixation, is one of the most important and humble services in all of nature. Without it, the chain of life would stop. Once nitrogen is fixed, it becomes available to plants. It moves into roots, travels through stems, and helps build the leaves and seeds that sustain ecosystems. When animals eat the plants, they absorb that nitrogen and use it to make enzymes, hormones, and the very fabric of their muscles and tissues. In this way, nitrogen becomes part of the living world, moving from root to leaf to flesh. But the journey does not end there. When plants and animals die, their bodies return to the soil. Decomposers like bacteria and fungi break them down, releasing nitrogen once more. Some of it becomes available again to plants. Some of it is transformed back into gas and returned to the atmosphere. This full circle keeps nitrogen in balance, neither hoarded nor wasted, always in motion, always feeding life in silence. Rain can carry nitrogen through the soil and into rivers, where it nourishes aquatic life. But when too much nitrogen enters the water, often from fertilizers or waste, it can cause harm. Algae may bloom rapidly, blocking light and reducing oxygen. Entire ecosystems can be thrown off balance. This reminds us how delicate the nitrogen cycle truly is. It is a system that thrives on just enough, not too little and not too much. The beauty of the nitrogen cycle lies in its invisibility. No grand movement announces its presence. No bright color reveals its path. And yet it is at work in every forest, every field, every body. Without it, leaves would not grow. Muscles would not form. Life would not unfold in the endless patterns we see. As you settle deeper into rest, let the quiet strength of nitrogen remind you that not all power is loud. Some of the most essential forces in the world move softly, working beneath the surface, nourishing life in stillness. Even now, while you sleep, the cycle continues, steady and unseen. Now we drift into the water cycle, where rain falls, rivers run, and every drop eventually finds its way home. This is the rhythm that connects clouds to oceans, mountaintops to meadows, and the sky to the soil beneath your feet. Water is never truly still. It rises, it flows, it soaks and evaporates, always in motion, always returning. Without this cycle, life would pause. With it, the earth breathes. The journey begins with heat. When the sun warms lakes, rivers, and seas, water turns into vapor and rises into the sky. This is evaporation, a quiet lift into the air. Plants also release water through their leaves, in a process called transpiration. These tiny releases, invisible to the eye, add to the moisture in the atmosphere. Together, they help shape clouds and guide the weather. As vapor cools high in the atmosphere, it condenses into droplets that form clouds. These clouds gather, grow heavy, and release their contents as precipitation. Rain, snow, sleet, or hail fall from the sky and return water to the land. This return is not just a replenishment, it is a signal. Roots awaken, streams swell, seeds stir. Rain touches every layer of the earth with renewal. Once water reaches the ground, it follows many paths. Some flows across the surface, becoming rivers and streams. Some slips into the soil, nourishing roots and collecting in underground aquifers. Some gathers in puddles or ponds, reflecting the sky until it rises again. No matter where it goes, it remains part of the cycle, waiting for the next phase of movement. The water cycle is not just a transfer, it is a conversation. Mountains hold snow until spring, releasing it in careful melt. Forests draw rain inward, holding it in leaves and trunks before letting it rise again. Wetlands store water like a sponge, softening floods and feeding the earth beneath. Each part of the landscape plays a role, each one listening and responding to the needs of the others. This cycle also purifies. As water moves through soil and stone, it is filtered. As it evaporates, it leaves impurities behind. In this way, the planet cleans and reuses what it already has. No new water arrives from space. The same drops that once fed ancient forests now fall on your roof. The water you drink may have once flowed through glaciers, drifted in clouds, or trickled through the roots of a fern. As you rest now, remember that the water in your body is part of this same journey. It may have been ocean, mist, or river. It may return to the sky while you sleep. You are not separate from this rhythm. You are included in it. Just like the rain that falls and the river that bends, you are part of the return. Now we move into the quiet foundation beneath our feet, the soil where rock meets life and something entirely new begins. At a glance it may look like simple dirt, but soil is a living world. It holds the memory of ancient mountains and the promise of new forests. It is made not only of minerals, but of life itself. Tiny creatures move through its grains. Roots wind through its layers. Water and air find space between its particles. Soil is the meeting point of earth and life, solid and soft at the same time. Soil begins with rock. Wind, water, and time breaks stone into smaller pieces. Temperature shifts, expand, and crack it. Over many years, the roughness of stone becomes the texture of earth. But rock alone is not soil. It needs the touch of the living. As plants grow and animals move, they leave behind bits of themselves. Leaves fall, bodies decay, and fungi weave through the darkness. All of this mixes into the ground, turning rock into something that can breathe. Inside the soil, countless organisms are at work. Earthworms tunnel through it, creating space for air and roots. Bacteria and fungi break down dead matter, returning nutrients to the system. In one handful of healthy soil, there may be more living creatures than humans on Earth. These invisible workers build the base of every ecosystem, even though they are almost never seen. They feed the plants that feed the animals that eventually feed us. Soil is not just the ground we walk on. It is the foundation that holds everything up. Soil also holds water, storing it after rain and releasing it when roots are thirsty. It keeps nutrients from washing away. It cradles seeds and gives them direction. A seed knows how to grow because of how it rests in the soil, how gravity pulls on it, how moisture surrounds it. Soil sends signals without words. It guides life upward. There are many kinds of soil, shaped by climate, plants, and time. Sandy soil drains quickly and warms fast. Clay holds water tightly and forms firm shapes. Loam, a balance of sand, silt, and clay, is often the richest of all. Each type supports different kinds of life, and each tells a story about what came before. You can read the history of a place in its soil if you know how to listen. As you lie still now, remember that beneath every step you have ever taken, the soil has been working. It has been building, holding, filtering, and feeding. It does not rush. It does not rest. It waits patiently for rain, for roots, for renewal, and in its stillness, it allows the living world to grow. Now we turn gently toward photosynthesis, the quiet process of making energy from light. It happens silently in leaves and algae, in the green skin of plants and the drifting cells in water. Without noise or movement, photosynthesis captures sunlight and transforms it into the food that fuels nearly all life on Earth. Every tree, every flower, every blade of grass depends on it. So do the animals that eat them, and the animals that eat those animals in turn. This simple process sustains the whole living web. At the heart of photosynthesis is sunlight. When the sun rises, its light touches the leaves of plants, and something extraordinary begins. Inside those leaves are tiny structures called chloroplasts. Inside the chloroplasts is a pigment called chlorophyll. It is chlorophyll that gives plants their green color, and it is chlorophyll that catches the sunlight. This light contains energy, and the plant uses it to begin a quiet chain of events. The plant draws in water through its roots and carbon dioxide from the air through small openings in its leaves. Using the energy from the sun, it breaks apart the water molecules and rearranges the carbon dioxide. The result is glucose, a simple sugar that holds the energy of sunlight in a new form. The plant keeps some of this sugar for its own growth and releases oxygen into the air as a byproduct. The oxygen drifts out into the world, filling lungs and supporting life. Photosynthesis is more than just chemistry. It is the beginning of nourishment. Every time you eat a fruit, a grain, or a vegetable, you are taking in the energy once held by sunlight. Even if you eat meat or dairy, the energy still traces back to plants. Life stacks itself on top of photosynthesis. It is the first exchange, the moment when the non-living becomes the living. It is where food begins. This process also balances the air. By taking in carbon dioxide and releasing oxygen, photosynthesis helps maintain the atmosphere. Forests, grasslands, and oceans act like lungs for the planet, inhaling and exhaling through millions of leaves and cells. When you walk through a forest, you are moving through a place that breathes, even if you cannot see it. The coolness beneath trees, the stillness in a field, the softness of moss, all carry the quiet work of photosynthesis. As you rest now, remember that sunlight continues to fall across the earth. Somewhere, a leaf is catching it. Somewhere, a cell is turning it into life. The air you breathe was shaped by this quiet miracle. Energy from the sun passes through a leaf, into sugar, into breath, into thought. Even in darkness, the memory of light remains. Now we follow the energy inward, into the world of cellular respiration, where each living cell unlocks the power it needs to survive. While photosynthesis captures energy from the sun, cellular respiration makes that energy usable. It is the quiet fire within every root, every muscle, every breath. It happens not just in plants, but in animals, fungi, and even bacteria. Without it, no cell could function. Life would simply stop. Inside the cell, the sugar made from photosynthesis holds energy like a tightly packed gift, but it cannot be used in that form. The cell must break it down, slowly and carefully, releasing the energy in small, usable pieces. This process takes place in tiny structures called mitochondria. These are the power stations of the cell, working day and night to keep the body alive. The sugar, often in the form of glucose, enters the cell and is split in a series of steps. With the help of oxygen, it is converted into carbon dioxide, water, and a small molecule called ATP. ATP is the true fuel of the cell. It powers everything from muscle movement to nerve signals, from building proteins to repairing damage. Every heartbeat, every blink, every thought uses ATP, and each molecule of it comes from this gentle process within. The oxygen we breathe plays a central role. It helps the mitochondria extract as much energy as possible from the sugar. Without oxygen, the cell can still make energy, but much less. That is why breath quickens when the body works hard. More oxygen means more fuel can be released. The air, the food, and the cell come together in perfect coordination, a quiet collaboration that sustains life moment by moment. Cellular respiration also creates warmth. As energy is released, some of it becomes heat. This is why your body stays warm even when the air is cold. Your cells are always working, always turning fuel into motion and structure and warmth. Even when you are asleep, the cells do not rest. They continue to breathe, to build, to respond. This process is not unique to humans. It happens in every creature that walks, swims, flies, or grows. In a fox chasing prey, in a hummingbird hovering near a flower, in a seed sprouting in dark soil, the same dance of molecules occurs. Cellular respiration ties all life together, not in grand gestures, but in billions of small, silent steps. As you settle into sleep, know that this rhythm continues. Your cells are still at work, calmly turning breath and food into the energy you will need tomorrow. You are not just resting, you are being renewed. Deep within you, the quiet fire burns on, steady and sure. Now we quietly arrive at the roles of producers, consumers, and the three gentle forces that keep nature's balance alive. Every ecosystem relies on this steady partnership, a quiet choreography of giving, taking, and returning. Though each type of organism plays a different part, they are not separate. They are linked by energy, matter, and the unspoken rhythm of survival. Together, they create the cycle of life. Producers are where it begins. These are the plants, algae, and some bacteria that capture sunlight and turn it into energy through photosynthesis. They do not feed on others. Instead, they create their own food, and in doing so, become the first source of energy for everything else. A blade of grass growing in a meadow, a tree spreading its branches in the forest, a patch of algae floating near the surface of a quiet pond. Each is a silent generator of life. Consumers are the ones who take in that energy. They eat the producers or eat other consumers who have. These include all animals from the tiniest insect to the largest whale. Some consumers eat only plants. Others eat animals. Many eat both. Some live by hunting. Others graze or scavenge. But all of them depend on the producers for the original source of energy. Every bite taken by a consumer is a transfer, a continuation of the sun's gift. Decomposers complete the cycle. These are the fungi, bacteria, and detritivores like earthworms and insects that break down dead plants and animals. They return nutrients to the soil and water. where they can be used again by producers. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is lost. What once lived becomes part of what will live next. The fallen leaf becomes new roots. The decayed log feeds new shoots. Even death becomes part of life. In a forest, these roles blend quietly. The tree captures light. The deer eats the leaves. The wolf eats the deer. The fungi break down the remains. And beneath it all, the soil is enriched, ready to nourish the next seed. Each role supports the others. Without producers, there is no food. Without consumers, populations grow unchecked. Without decomposers, waste would pile and nutrients would not return. Each group depends on the others. Each plays its part. This system is not just efficient, it is generous. Energy is passed on. Nutrients are shared. Death feeds life. Nature does not hoard, it circulates. It gives and takes with quiet care. As you settle deeper into rest, you are surrounded by this balance. The food you have eaten, the breath you take, the warmth of your body are all part of this ancient cycle. You are not apart from it. You are within it. Let that bring peace. Let it remind you that life continues, always moving forward, one quiet exchange at a time. Now we gently move into the world of food webs, where hunger weaves a quiet map of connection and balance. Every living thing eats or is eaten, not out of cruelty, but as part of a deeper order. These connections are not lines drawn in straight chains, but woven strands, crossing and curling in all directions. A food web is nature's way of showing how everything is linked, how one action ripples through the whole. At the heart of a food web are the producers. These plants, algae, and photosynthetic bacteria catch sunlight and turn it into energy stored in leaves and stems. They are the first givers, the foundation of every meal in the wild. From them, energy flows outward to herbivores that graze on plants and fruits. Then it moves to carnivores and omnivores, who hunt or scavenge those that have eaten the plants. It does not stop there. Decomposers take what is left behind and return it to the soil, where the cycle quietly begins again. Unlike a food chain, which follows a single line of who eats whom, a food web shows the fullness of real life. A mouse may eat seeds, but also insects. A hawk may eat the mouse, but also snakes. An insect might feed on a plant, but also fall prey to a spider. Every organism connects to many others, both giving and taking. The more connections there are, the more stable the system becomes. Diversity brings strength. Each link in a food web has a role to play. Some species, known as keystone species, hold many threads together. If they disappear, the web begins to fray. Others have more flexible roles, shifting their behavior when food is scarce or seasons change. These adjustments help maintain the balance, allowing ecosystems to adapt. When one part changes, others respond, like the movement of branches when one is bent by the wind. But food webs are delicate too. Remove too many species, add pollutants, or break the connections with fences or roads, and the balance is lost. Invasive species can overwhelm the local web. Climate shifts can rearrange the timing of food availability. The web stretches, tangles, or tears. This is why understanding the web matters. It reminds us that no species stands alone. Each is supported by others, often in ways we cannot see. As you drift into sleep, imagine the web beneath you and around you, not just in forests or oceans, but in every garden, every stream, every patch of grass. The food web hums with quiet exchanges, unseen but unbroken. Even your breath is part of it. You inhale what plants give. You eat what the sun once fed. You are not outside the web. You are one of its threads. Now we ease into the idea of ecosystems, where life and landscape blend into a self-sustaining whole. An ecosystem is more than just a collection of plants and animals. It is a living system where every creature, every drop of water, every shift in sunlight works together in balance. These systems do not rely on outside instruction. They regulate themselves. They adjust. They respond. An ecosystem is nature thinking through soil, rain, and breath. At its core, an ecosystem includes both the biotic, which is the life, and the abiotic, which is the non-living but essential forces like sunlight, air, temperature, and minerals. Together they form a loop where energy flows and materials cycle. In a forest, trees grow from the soil, take in sunlight, and provide shelter and food for animals. Those animals move seeds, fertilize ground, and shape the forest in return. Even a patch of lichen on a rock has this dynamic system sustaining itself quietly through small exchanges. Energy flows through an ecosystem, beginning with the producers, those who make energy from the sun. It moves through consumers, who eat to survive, and through decomposers, who break down what is no longer living and return its elements to the soil. Water moves through, carrying nutrients. Air shifts, carrying pollen and spores. Even shadows and wind play their part. Nothing is wasted. Everything circles back. Ecosystems can be vast, like rainforests or oceans, or they can be tiny, like the shallow water in a tree hole or a single square meter of meadow. The size does not matter. What defines them is the completeness of their function. They feed themselves, clean themselves, and regulate their own cycles. They do not need perfection to survive, just enough connection, enough give and take. But ecosystems are not frozen. They grow, they change. A fire may clear a forest, but soon the green begins again. A new species arrives, and the system stretches to include it or pushes back. Drought, flood, wind, and time press against these systems, and still they find a way to continue. This resilience comes from diversity and cooperation. The more pieces there are, the more ways the system can respond. Humans are part of ecosystems too. In our cities, in our farms, in every place we live, we form new systems or enter existing ones. Sometimes we help them thrive, sometimes we disrupt them, but we are never outside of them. We breathe their air, eat their fruits, walk through their cycles. Knowing this can bring a gentler perspective. As you drift off now, think of yourself as part of a system that breathes with you. The air you inhale was filtered by leaves. The food you digest came from sunlit fields. Even as you rest, ecosystems continue their work, quiet and unseen, holding life in place without needing to be asked. Now we journey into the idea of biomes, the great natural regions of the world, shaped by climate, plants, animals, and long stretches of time. A biome is not a single place, but a pattern that repeats across continents and oceans, echoing the same forms in different corners of the globe. Where rainfall is scarce and heat is high, deserts arise. Where cold wraps the soil for much of the year, tundra settles in. Each biome tells the story of how life adapts to the deep rhythm of Earth's conditions. Biomes form when large areas of land or water share similar temperature ranges, rainfall levels, and types of life. These shared conditions create predictable communities of plants and animals. The tundra near the poles, the rainforest at the equator, the temperate forests in between, each hosts species that know how to live there. In this way, biomes are like nature's palette, coloring the planet with regions of specific life forms, repeating their beauty again and again in faraway places. There are land biomes, called terrestrial, and water biomes, called aquatic. The terrestrial biomes include tundra, taiga, temperate, deciduous forests, grasslands, deserts, and tropical rainforests. Each of these comes with its own unique balance of sunlight, water, and soil. A desert may seem empty, but is full of specialized life, hidden and cautious. A rainforest hums with constant growth, layers of green competing for light. A grassland rolls open and wide, its roots deep and strong against the wind. Aquatic biomes include freshwater systems like lakes and rivers, and marine systems like oceans, coral reefs, and estuaries. These water-based worlds follow their own rules, shaped by currents, salt levels, and the movement of tides. Coral reefs glow with life in warm shallows. Deep ocean trenches hold creatures adapted to darkness and pressure. Rivers carry not just water, but seeds, nutrients, and stories from the mountains to the sea. Biomes are not static. They shift slowly over time as climates change, species migrate, and human influence stretches further across the map. Sometimes a biome begins to change when the temperature warms or rain patterns shift. Sometimes a forest turns to grassland. Sometimes a wetland dries into scrub. Yet within these changes, life often finds a way to adjust. The biome breathes and evolves, always responding. As you lie in stillness now, imagine the earth as a mosaic of biomes, each one humming with its own pace of life. From the icy air of the tundra to the damp shadow of a jungle floor, every region offers a lesson in survival and grace. Though the places may be far apart, they are connected by the rules of nature, by the pull of the sun and the fall of the rain. You are resting now within one of them, and all the others continue their quiet work, as the earth spins gently beneath the stars. Now we walk quietly into the forest, where layered light filters through a roof of leaves, and life rises in gentle tears from the soil to the sky. A forest is not just a collection of trees. It is a living system, dense with interaction and rhythm. In the silence between trunks and the shadow beneath ferns, an entire world breathes and listens. The forest is a place of patience and renewal, of slow growth and sudden bloom. Forests cover nearly a third of Earth's land and come in many forms. Tropical rainforests hum with life near the equator, while temperate forests change with the seasons, and boreal forests stretch across cold northern latitudes. Each type responds to its own blend of sunlight, rainfall, and temperature. But wherever they grow, forests share something deep: the ability to build their own world from the ground up. The forest has layers. At the top is the canopy, where the tallest trees spread their branches to catch the sun. This layer holds birds, insects, fruits, and vines. Beneath it is the understory, where smaller trees and shrubs reach for filtered light. Then comes the forest floor, dim and damp, scattered with fallen leaves and fungi, where seeds take root and decomposers quietly work. Each layer holds different lives, yet all are connected. What falls from above feeds what grows below. Roots spread underground like threads of conversation, often linking trees through fungal networks. These mycorrhizal fungi allow trees to share nutrients and signals, warning each other of drought or disease. The forest is not silent. It speaks in its own language, through chemistry and vibration, through air and root. A tree in trouble may receive help from a neighbor. A patch of sunlight may bring a new shoot to life. Forests are also powerful regulators. They absorb carbon dioxide and give out oxygen. They stabilize soil, slow erosion, and influence rainfall. The presence of a forest can change the weather. Even their scent, the pine, the damp, the moss, is part of the forest's work, carrying signals that affect insect behavior and plant growth. And when trees fall or fires sweep through, the forest begins again. It knows how to start over. As you rest now, imagine lying beneath a canopy of green. Leaves shift gently above you, casting flickers of light. The air is cool and rich. Every breath you take carries something from a forest somewhere, even if you are far from one. These living systems continue whether we are there or not. They grow, adapt, and remember. They hold the past in their rings and the future in their seeds. Let that thought carry you deeper into rest, knowing that the forest is still out there, alive with quiet purpose, building a world layer by layer. Now we step into the openness of grasslands, where the sky stretches wide and the wind carries stories across rolling fields. Grasslands are often overlooked for their simplicity, but beneath the quiet sweep of grass lies a world of restless roots, moving herds, and resilient cycles. They are lands of subtle change and hidden strength, shaped more by movement than stillness, more by rhythm than structure. Grasslands cover vast portions of Earth's surface. They are known by many names: prairies in North America, savannas in Africa, steppes in Asia, pampas in South America. Though the names differ, the essence remains the same. These are places too dry for forests and too wet for deserts. Here, grasses thrive where trees cannot, and the land is defined not by towering plants, but by those that bow gently in the breeze. The grasses of these biomes are not fragile. Their strength lies underground, in deep roots that anchor them through fire, grazing, and drought. These roots store energy, help the soil hold water, and return nutrients when the surface is scorched or stripped away. Even when a fire sweeps through or animals graze the land down to the dirt, the grasses return. They are quiet survivors, built for renewal. Grasslands host some of the most iconic animals on Earth. Herds of bison, antelope, zebras, and wildebeests roam across them, following the rains and the seasons. Predators such as lions, wolves, and cheetahs move with them, keeping balance in check. Birds nest in the grasses, insects pollinate the wildflowers, and underground creatures burrow through the soil. Everything is in motion. Few things stay still for long. One of the most important roles grasslands play is in soil formation and carbon storage. As grasses grow and die, their roots build up thick layers of organic matter, creating fertile soil that supports agriculture and wildlife alike. This deep, dark soil is among the richest on Earth. It holds the memory of centuries of growth and decay, layered gently beneath your feet. But grasslands are also among the most endangered biomes. Their flat, fertile lands have made them targets for farming and development. Many native grasslands have disappeared, replaced by fields and roads. Yet some remain wild, and in those spaces, the wind still sings over the tall grass, and the rhythm of hooves still echoes across the plains. As you settle into rest, imagine lying under that endless sky, surrounded by the hush of grasses moving in time with the breeze. Feel the deep roots beneath you, steady and patient, holding the land together. Even in their quietness, grasslands are alive with purpose, with motion, with breath. They do not need grandeur to be powerful. Their strength is in their openness, in their cycles, in the peace of their wide horizons. Now we enter the desert, a land of stillness and extremes, where survival moves slowly and every drop of water is guarded like gold. The desert may seem empty at first glance, a quiet stretch of sand or stone under a relentless sun. But this quiet holds a story of resilience, of life stripped down to its essentials, adapting with care over centuries. In the desert, nothing is wasted, and everything has purpose. Deserts cover nearly 1/5 of Earth's land. They are defined not by heat, but by dryness. Some are hot, like the Sahara, others cold, like the Gobi. What unites them is the scarcity of water. Rain falls rarely and unpredictably, and when it comes, it often disappears quickly into the ground or evaporates under the sun. This scarcity shapes the land and the life that lives there, creating forms and habits seen nowhere else. Plants in the desert survive by slowing down. Many are small, with thick skins and few leaves. Some, like cacti, store water inside their stems and grow spines instead of leaves to reduce evaporation. Others grow only after rain, blooming quickly, scattering seeds, and vanishing back into dormancy. Their seeds may wait in the soil for years before waking up. In the desert, patience is everything. Animals too have found ways to live in this extreme balance. Many are active at night when the air cools. They rest in burrows or shaded spaces during the day. Reptiles, rodents, insects, and birds make up much of desert life. Their bodies are built to retain water, avoid overheating, and travel far to find what they need. Even predators like foxes and owls have learned to hunt silently in the dark, wasting nothing. The landscape tells its own story. Dunes shaped by wind, rocks carved by heat and time, cracks in the ground where rain once ran. Deserts are not barren. They are sculpted, textured, and alive in ways that ask you to look closer. They teach the value of restraint, of small steps and quiet strength. Change happens here, but it happens slowly. Evolution in deserts is a long, patient conversation between life and climate. Yet even deserts are changing. Rising temperatures, shifting rains, and human interference are stretching their fragile balance. Still, the desert endures. Its life is quiet but deeply rooted, tested over ages. And when the rain does come, the desert answers. Seeds bloom, insects rise. The silence breaks with color and movement, a brief celebration before the stillness returns. As you settle into sleep, think of the desert beneath a starlit sky, cool and quiet, holding its breath until dawn. There is peace in its emptiness, wisdom in its restraint. In this place where life moves in slow motion, nothing is rushed and everything has meaning. The desert waits, survives, and blooms in its own time. Now we move gently toward the oceans, the vast blue that cradles the earth and carries its deepest rhythms. The ocean is not just water, it is movement, memory, and the unseen engine of life itself. Covering more than 70% of the planet's surface, the oceans shape weather, store heat, feed billions, and breathe alongside forests. They are the Earth's longest heartbeat, pulsing with tides and currents that have never stopped. The ocean seems endless, but it has shape and structure. There are the coastal shallows, where sunlight dances and coral grows. The open ocean stretches wider, deeper, darker, and colder the farther you go. Eventually, light disappears altogether and the abyss begins, a place of pressure and quiet where strange creatures drift in silence. From the surface to the bottom, the ocean is layered with life adapted to its changing light and depth. The surface glitters with waves, but underneath flows a powerful system of currents. These global conveyors move warm water from the tropics toward the poles and pull cold water back again. They help distribute heat across the earth, balancing climates and feeding the winds that drive weather. The ocean holds more heat than the air and more carbon than all the forests combined. It is not just a part of the system, it is the system. Marine life is as varied as the ocean is deep. Near the shore, seaweeds sway and fish dart through coral reefs. Farther out, whales sing and jellyfish glow. Microscopic plankton, nearly invisible, float by the billions, capturing sunlight and feeding the entire chain of life above them. Every large creature in the ocean, from tuna to shark to squid, depends in some way on these tiny drifters. Their work may be small, but it is constant. The ocean also breathes. It exchanges gases with the atmosphere, taking in carbon dioxide and giving out oxygen. It regulates Earth's temperature by absorbing sunlight and buffering climate shifts. And yet, like so many of nature's systems, it is vulnerable. Warming waters, plastic waste, oil spills, acidification, these pressures are rising. Still, the ocean endures. It adjusts, it absorbs. It waits for us to learn how to care for it better. As you drift off tonight, imagine the ocean stretching far beyond the horizon. Waves moving in slow rhythm, moonlight resting on its surface. Below that surface, life pulses in quiet determination, shaped by darkness, pressure, and time. You are part of a planet wrapped in water, a world whose life began in the sea. Every breath you take, every cloud you see, every drop of rain that falls, all of it connects back to the ocean. Let yourself be held by that vastness now, resting with the rhythm of tides, knowing that even while you sleep, the ocean moves, carries, and breathes. Now we gently descend into the shallow tropical waters where coral reefs glow like underwater cities, filled with motion, color, and life. Coral reefs are often called the rainforests of the sea because of their astonishing biodiversity. Though they cover less than 1% of the ocean floor, they support nearly a quarter of all marine species. In these warm, clear waters, balance is built on cooperation, timing, and fragile beauty. Corals are not plants. They are tiny animals known as polyps, each no larger than a grain of rice. These polyps build limestone skeletons that grow slowly over centuries, forming intricate structures of rock and shape. Inside their tissues live microscopic algae, which give corals their colors and feed them through photosynthesis. This partnership is delicate. If the water gets too warm or polluted, the algae leave and the coral turns ghostly white. This is coral bleaching, a sign that the reef is in distress. But when conditions are right, coral reefs flourish. They form barriers that protect coastlines from storms, provide nursery grounds for fish, and offer food and income for millions of people. The reef is a busy neighborhood. Schools of fish flash through tunnels and caves. Crabs scuttle between rocks. Eels slip through crevices. Even the coral itself pulses gently, feeding at night with tiny tentacles. Life here is layered, textured, always moving. Reefs exist in a delicate balance between growth and erosion. Parrotfish chew on coral to feed, breaking down pieces that become soft sand. Sponges bore into the reef. Waves and storms wear away the edges. Yet the coral continues to grow, rebuilding what is lost, laying down new skeletons in slow, steady layers. The reef is never still. It is always building, breaking, and beginning again. Many creatures rely on the reef for shelter and safety. Some species live nowhere else on Earth. Others visit as part of their life cycle, returning to spawn or feed. Sharks patrol the outer edges. Sea turtles rest on the sand. Rays glide over the coral floor. Every color, every motion, every pattern in the reef tells part of a larger story, one of cooperation, specialization, and ancient rhythm. As you lie in rest, imagine the reef just beneath the surface, dappled with sunlight, swaying with currents. Imagine drifting among corals shaped like brains, fans, fingers, and lace. Feel the stillness of the water and the quiet work of thousands of tiny lives forming something vast and strong. Even as you sleep, the reef continues its gentle construction, building shelter from stone and light. Now we turn our gaze to rivers and lakes, the quiet carriers of memory and time carved into the land. Rivers do not simply flow across the earth, they shape it, feed it, and whisper the stories of mountains, forests, and valleys into every drop. Lakes hold those stories in stillness, keeping the sky's reflection and the silence of rooted plants beneath the surface. Together, they form freshwater worlds where nature moves at a gentler pace. A river begins with a source, often a spring high in the hills, or melting snow from a distant mountain. From there, it begins its descent, gathering water, soil, and fallen leaves. As it travels, the river changes. It carves through rock, winds through meadows, crashes in rapids, or spreads into calm deltas. It never follows a straight path. Its bends and turns are part of its wisdom, responding to the shape of the land and the pull of gravity. Rivers are lifelines. They carry nutrients from the land to the sea. They offer water to drink, irrigate, and clean. They become migration paths for fish and birds, and a source of life for countless plants and animals. Along their banks, forests grow lush and soil grows rich. Human civilizations, too, have always gathered near rivers, building homes, planting crops, and following the river's flow as it guided seasons and trade. Lakes, unlike rivers, pause. They gather water into basins formed by ancient glaciers, shifting tectonic plates, or collapsed volcanic craters. Some are vast and deep, like the Great Lakes, holding more water than many rivers combined. Others are small, tucked into quiet valleys or hidden in mountain bowls. Their waters may stay still, but below the surface, a world exists. Fish glide silently, plants stretch toward light, sediments settle slowly, layer upon layer. The life in and around rivers and lakes is rich and varied. Frogs sing from reeds, beavers build homes of branches and mud, herons wait in silence, tiny insects skim the surface, algae bloom where the sunlight touches. In the stillness or the flow, these waters hold more than just fish or lilies. They carry the story of every place they pass, mixing soil and rain and memory into one. As you close your eyes, imagine yourself near a riverbank, where the water slides over smooth stones and the trees lean in gently. Or picture a lake at dawn, mist rising from the surface, the world hushed and slow. These waters have traveled long paths or rested through long seasons, and still they move, still they wait. Let their rhythm become your own tonight, slow and steady, deep and calm, as you drift into peaceful sleep. Now we rise slowly toward the mountains, the towering spines of the earth where stone meets sky and life learns to endure. Mountains are not only majestic, they are also ancient storytellers, shaped by the deep movements of the planet and etched by wind, water, and ice. They stand as reminders of both power and patience, offering shelter to strange and beautiful forms of life that find a way to live where the air thins and the ground hardens. Mountains are born when tectonic plates collide, forcing the crust to buckle and lift. Over millions of years, these collisions build peaks and ridges that stretch toward the clouds. Some mountains are young and jagged, their edges still sharp from recent uplift. Others are older, worn down by erosion into gentler slopes and rounded hills. Whether fierce or soft, every mountain carries the slow memory of geologic time in its layers and curves. As elevation increases, the environment changes. Air becomes colder and thinner. Trees grow smaller and eventually vanish, giving way to alpine meadows and bare rock. Snow may linger year-round, and glaciers may creep slowly down the slopes, carving valleys as they go. These high places seem lifeless at first, but they are not. Life adapts with remarkable precision to the vertical world. Mountain ecosystems are layered, each level home to different communities. At the base, forests may grow thick and green. Mid-levels host shrubs, mosses, and hardy grasses. At the top, lichens cling to stone, and a few tough animals endure wind and cold. Mountain goats find balance on narrow ledges. Birds nest in rocky cliffs. Even insects and flowers survive in tiny pockets where warmth and shelter collect. Mountains are also powerful water towers. Snow and ice stored on peaks melt slowly, feeding rivers that nourish valleys far below. These meltwaters are vital, providing drinking water, irrigation, and energy for millions. A single mountain can influence weather patterns, creating rain shadows and directing the path of clouds. Their size and presence shape the climate around them in silent, lasting ways. For many cultures, mountains hold spiritual significance. Their heights suggest closeness to the sky. Their permanence invites reverence. They are places of pilgrimage, reflection, and renewal. Standing before a mountain, one often feels smaller, quieter, more aware of time's slow flow and nature's scale. Now, as you rest, picture yourself among the slopes, breathing in cold, clean air. Snow glints on a distant ridge. A stream whispers down a path of stone. Above you, stars scatter across a vast sky. The mountain holds steady, unmoved by rush or noise, listening only to wind and time. Let that stillness become your own tonight, grounded and deep, resting in the quiet presence of stone and sky. Now we lift our eyes to the sky and feel the stirrings of weather, the restless breath of earth moving above us. Weather is not a single moment, but a dance of temperature, pressure, and moisture unfolding across the atmosphere. It is what we feel on our skin, what we watch through windows, what shapes our days without ever asking. One moment still, the next in motion, where is nature's constant whisper that change is always near. The sun is the quiet engine behind it all. Its warmth falls unevenly on the earth, heating oceans, land, and air at different rates. Warm air rises, cool air sinks. Moisture evaporates and condenses. These shifts stir the sky into patterns that form clouds, winds, rains, and storms. What begins as heat in one part of the world can end as snowfall in another. The sky carries stories that cross continents and oceans. Air pressure helps guide the motion. High-pressure areas push air outward and often bring calm, clear skies. Low-pressure zones pull air inward and upward, often leading to clouds and rain. As these systems move, they meet, mix, and sometimes collide. Fronts form between them, marking boundaries where warm and cold air wrestle for space. This clash can bring gentle drizzles or mighty thunderstorms. Clouds are the sky's signature, always shifting in form and meaning. Cumulus clouds puff and drift, light and friendly. Stratus clouds spread in quiet blankets, dimming the world. Cirrus clouds stretch in fine threads high above, catching light in silent trails. And then there are storm clouds, heavy and dark, filled with the energy of thunder and sudden rain. Each type tells us something about the air above and what may come next. Wind carries the sky's momentum. From gentle breezes to powerful gusts, wind moves heat, moisture, and seeds across the landscape. It shapes clouds, stirs the trees, and cools your skin on warm days. Wind also fuels storms. When conditions align, spinning air can build into cyclones, tornadoes, or hurricanes. Each a dramatic reminder that the sky holds force as well as calm. Yet even in its wildest moments, weather follows patterns. Seasons shift, temperatures rise and fall, rain comes and goes. These rhythms shape migrations, awaken seeds, and guide the cycles of life. The unpredictability of weather may feel chaotic, but beneath it lies structure, born from the Earth's tilt, its spin, and its oceans. As you fall into sleep, imagine lying under an open sky, clouds drifting overhead, wind touching the grass around you. Far above, the atmosphere stirs quietly, always in motion, always in conversation with land and sea. Weather does not stop. It listens, it responds, and it teaches us to watch the sky not just for answers, but for presence. Now we shift from the momentary moods of weather to the deeper rhythms of climate, the patterns written not in days but in decades. Where weather changes hour by hour, climate lingers, shaped by long memory, slow shifts, and enduring forces. It is the background hum beneath the sudden storm or sunny afternoon. It is what guides the seasons, carves the biomes, and supports the steady breath of ecosystems. Climate is defined by averages. Temperature, rainfall, wind, humidity, all of these are recorded over years and decades, then woven into a broader understanding of place. A desert is dry, not because it missed one rain, but because it misses most. A rainforest is wet not from a single storm, but from a history of storms. These averages shape what life can grow, what animals can thrive, and how water moves across the land. Several factors influence climate, and they all begin with the sun. The amount of solar energy a region receives depends on its latitude. Near the equator, sunlight hits directly, warming the land and water year-round. Toward the poles, sunlight arrives at a slant, spreading thinner and shifting more across the seasons. Earth's tilt, its orbit, and its spin also play roles, stirring patterns of light and dark, heat and cold. Oceans act as climate's memory banks. They absorb heat in summer and release it in winter. Currents carry warmth from one region to another, gently blending climates together. Mountains can block or redirect these patterns, casting rain shadows or guiding wind. Even the color of the surface, whether covered in ice, forest, or city, can change how much sunlight is reflected or absorbed. Climates are often named for what they allow: tropical, temperate, polar, arid, Mediterranean. These terms describe not just temperature, but what lives there. They hint at what plants take root, what animals roam, and how humans have learned to farm, build, and live within those boundaries. Culture often follows climate, shaped by its quiet hand. But climate is not fixed. It shifts across centuries and millennia. Ice ages come and go. Droughts stretch for decades. Even now, with rising greenhouse gases, the climate is changing more quickly than it has in thousands of years. Patterns grow less predictable, seasons blur, storms intensify, and ecosystems, once steady, begin to stir and strain under the weight of change. As you close your eyes tonight, picture the long breath of the planet, not hurried or loud, but slow and deep, marking time across forests and oceans, deserts and mountains. Think of climate as the steady drum behind the songs of birds and the steps of migrations. Let it remind you that nature does not only live in the moment. It carries memory, rhythm, and resilience that stretch across generations. Now we shift into the turning wheel of the seasons, nature's gentle clock that ticks not in seconds but in sunlight. The seasons do not rush. They arrive in quiet stages, marking time through blooming buds, falling leaves, longer days, or colder nights. They are not just changes in weather. They are signals written in light and shadow, each one guiding the behavior of plants, animals, and people alike. Seasons exist because Earth is tilted. As our planet orbits the sun, that tilt causes different parts of the Earth to receive more or less sunlight at different times of the year. When one hemisphere leans toward the sun, it experiences summer. When it leans away, it is winter. In between are the soft transitions of spring and autumn, where light and dark find balance for a moment before shifting again. This slow rhythm affects every living thing. Plants sense changes in light and warmth, using them to know when to sprout, flower, or drop their leaves. Animals respond to some grow thicker fur or shed old coats. Birds begin long migrations. Insects enter hibernation. Even deep beneath the ground or under frozen lakes, life adjusts its pace, waiting for warmth to return. Spring is a season of awakening. Light grows longer. Seeds break open. Water flows freely again. Life seems to rise as if the earth itself were stretching after sleep. Summer follows with its fullness. Growth reaches its peak. Pollinators hum through fields. Fruit ripens in the sun. Then comes autumn, quiet and golden. Leaves turn and fall. Temperatures ease. Animals begin to gather or travel. And finally winter, when the land slows, rests, and waits. Snow may fall. Winds grow quiet. Life huddles in stillness, conserving energy. In tropical regions, the seasons are measured not by temperature, but by rain. Wet and dry seasons define the year. In polar regions, light becomes the calendar. Days of constant sun give way to nights that last for months. Yet even in the extremes, the earth turns and tilts, and the cycle continues. Seasons also shape human life. Traditions, agriculture, and festivals are often rooted in the turning of this natural clock. Harvests, migrations, and even sleep patterns are tied to these shifts in light. The seasons remind us that nothing stays the same forever, and that every part of life has a time to begin, a time to grow, a time to slow down, and a time to rest. As you lie in stillness tonight, imagine yourself held gently in the turning of the year. Leaves falling or flowers blooming, snow melting or rains returning. These changes do not ask for attention. They simply arrive again and again, reminding us that time in nature is not a line but a circle. Let that circle cradle you now, quiet and steady, as the planet tilts softly toward tomorrow. Now we drift into the patient world of evolution, the silent sculptor of life across deep time. Evolution is not fast or loud. It does not make announcements. It unfolds slowly through small changes, tested by survival and shaped by the environment. Over millions of years, those changes accumulate, and from them new forms of life arise, while others fade quietly into memory. Evolution is not just a theory, it is the story of life itself, told in fossils, genes, and the shape of every creature. At its heart, evolution is about variation and inheritance. Every living thing carries DNA, the instruction manual for how it grows, functions, and survives. But DNA is not fixed. It copies itself, and in doing so, sometimes makes small mistakes. These changes, called mutations, may do nothing at all, or they may alter the way a creature looks or behaves. Most are subtle, but a few might help an organism survive just a little better than others. When a trait improves survival or reproduction, it tends to be passed on. Over time, helpful traits become more common, while others fade away. This slow filtering process is called natural selection. It does not plan or aim. It simply responds to what works best in a given environment. If climates change, if food becomes scarce, if predators appear, those with traits that can adapt will pass on their genes, the rest may not. Through this process, species evolve. Fish become amphibians. Tiny mammals become towering elephants. Birds and bats develop wings, not because they chose to fly, but because small changes slowly allowed them to. It is not a ladder, but a branching tree, with each species a twig, some growing and others falling. Extinction is part of the story too. Not all forms survive, but every form teaches us what was once possible. Fossils offer a window into this history. Bones preserved in stone show how hips shifted, how teeth changed, how wings took shape. The fossil record is not complete, but it whispers across time, tracing lines from ancient ancestors to the creatures we know today. Even our own species is part of this tree. Human evolution spans millions of years, marked by growing brains, changing tools, and the ability to imagine a world beyond instinct. As you rest, think of the slow patience of life unfolding. Imagine a single fin changing to a limb, a jaw reshaping over centuries, a feather evolving from warmth to flight. Evolution is not fast enough to watch, but its traces are all around us, written in beaks, fur, fingers, and genes. It reminds us that every living thing is not just alive now, but is also the result of what has survived before. Let that quiet continuity settle around you now, deep and enduring, as you drift into sleep with the Earth's oldest story beside you. Now we gently follow the thread of adaptation, the artful way in which life responds to its surroundings without ever needing to hurry. Adaptation is not about becoming perfect. It is about becoming just right for the place and time in which a species lives. Through slow adjustments across generations, creatures change not to chase perfection but to fit more comfortably into their corner of the world. This quiet refinement helps life continue, even as the world around it shifts and surprises. Adaptations can be physical, behavioral, or physiological. A polar bear's thick fur and black skin are physical adaptations that help it stay warm in frozen landscapes. A cactus storing water in its stem is a physiological adaptation to dry deserts. Birds migrating to avoid winter is a behavioral one. These traits are not chosen in a moment. They emerge from generations of small changes that allowed certain individuals to survive a little better than others. Some adaptations are striking. A chameleon changes color to blend with its background. The long neck of a giraffe reaches food no other animal can access. The wings of a bat, unlike those of a bird or insect, are stretched skin supported by finger bones. Each solution is shaped by the pressures of its environment, not copied from a template, but formed by trial and response. Other adaptations are invisible but no less important. Certain fish can survive in both fresh and salty water by adjusting their internal chemistry. High-altitude animals have blood that binds oxygen more efficiently. Some seeds remain dormant for years, waiting for the right conditions before sprouting. These hidden adjustments can mean the difference between thriving and vanishing. Adaptation is also a reason why diversity exists. In different environments, different traits are favored. Arctic foxes grow white coats in winter and brown in summer. Desert lizards move quickly over hot sand and seek shade at midday. Coral reefs host fish with shapes and colors that match the maze of the reef itself. Each ecosystem is a stage, and every species adapts in its own quiet way to fit the script written by climate, competition, and chance. But adaptation does not mean endless flexibility. Change too fast, and species can struggle to keep pace. When habitats are destroyed or climates shift quickly, adaptation may not arrive in time. This is why resilience in nature often depends on both adaptation and stability. Too much change, too fast, can silence even the best survival strategies. As you settle into rest, think of the many ways life bends without breaking. Imagine the curve of a bird's beak shaped by the seeds it eats. Picture a flower opening in the exact moment a bee appears. Hear the quiet genius in these soft changes, these subtle fits, these lifelong negotiations between body and world. Let that wisdom drift over you tonight, steady and soft, like nature's way of saying yes to life again and again. Now we move gently into the living tension between competition and cooperation, two forces that shape every forest, ocean, and plain. In nature, survival is not a solitary task. Every creature must find its place among many others, and that place is often carved by both struggle and harmony. These interactions are not loud or violent most of the time. They unfold in quiet patterns, in subtle shifts of timing, in silent exchanges of benefit or cost. Competition begins when two organisms need the same thing. It could be sunlight on a crowded forest floor, water in a dry season, or food during a lean winter. When resources are limited, even the smallest advantage can make a difference. Taller plants block shorter ones. Faster predators catch more prey. Birds may fight for nesting sites. Even seeds compete in silence, racing to sprout where space and soil are just right. Yet competition is not always destructive. It can shape life into more efficient forms. It encourages variety. It pushes species to spread out, to specialize, to adapt. Over time, this pressure helps carve the intricate web of life into more balanced patterns. Species learn to share in unexpected ways, using different layers of the same forest, different depths of the same lake, or different hours of the same day. Cooperation, on the other hand, is nature's quieter gift. It can be found between members of the same species, like wolves hunting together or bees building a hive. It can also stretch across species, as in the case of birds that clean parasites from large mammals or plants that trade nutrients with fungi beneath the soil. These partnerships are built not from kindness, but from mutual benefit, and they can be as strong as any competition. Some of the most complex forms of cooperation are found in ecosystems like coral reefs, where countless species live side by side, sharing shelter, protection, and food. In the savanna, grazing animals may travel together for safety. In the ocean, fish form schools to confuse predators. Even bacteria inside your body are part of this grand system of mutual support. Nature does not pick sides. It uses both competition and cooperation to shape the dance of life. One sharpens survival, the other sustains it. And often they exist together, blended in ways that are hard to separate. Trees compete for light, but may also communicate through their roots, sharing resources in times of need. Predators compete for prey, but may raise their young in coordinated groups. As you drift into sleep, imagine a forest where every leaf, every bird, every ant is part of a shared rhythm. Some reach out, some pull back, some wait, and some give. Life moves forward not because one force wins, but because both are present, shaping balance in every corner of the wild. Let that balance settle into you tonight, soft and steady, like a breath shared between all living things. Now we arrive at the final part of this journey through nature, resting in the wonder of biodiversity, the greatest invention life has ever known. Biodiversity is not just a word for variety. It is the full expression of nature's creativity, patience, and resilience. From the deepest trenches of the ocean to the highest mountain forests, life has unfolded in countless forms, each shaped by time and circumstance, each playing a role in the balance of the whole. Every species is a thread in a vast tapestry. Some are large and visible, like elephants or eagles. Others are hidden, microscopic, quietly holding the world together. Bacteria in the soil help plants grow. Tiny insects pollinate trees. Algae in the ocean make the air we breathe. Biodiversity is not measured by what we see, but by how deeply life is woven into every inch of the planet. This richness is not random. It is the result of billions of years of evolution, adaptation, cooperation, and survival. The more diverse an ecosystem is, the more stable it becomes. If one species fails, another may fill its place. If a disease spreads, it may not affect every organism. Diversity spreads risk. It strengthens the web. It is nature's way of building insurance into life itself. And this diversity is not only beautiful, it is useful. The foods we eat, the medicines we make, the air and water we depend on, all flow from the relationships among diverse species. Even ecosystems, far from where we live, support the balance we rely on. Coral reefs protect coastlines. Rainforests regulate the planet's climate. Every living thing adds to the whole in ways we are still learning to understand. But biodiversity is also fragile. As forests fall and oceans warm, as species are pushed out of their homes or taken faster than they can recover, that balance begins to unravel. Extinction is a natural part of evolution, but today it happens faster than nature can rebuild. When even a small part of the web is lost, the effects ripple outward. Still, nature is resilient. With care and time, ecosystems can recover, species can return, and diversity can bloom again. Protecting biodiversity is not only about saving animals or preserving wild places. It is about preserving the quiet systems that sustain all life, including our own. Now we ease into the quiet choreography of pollination, a delicate partnership that connects movement to growth and color to survival. Pollination is not simply the transfer of pollen. It is one of the most vital and graceful exchanges in nature. Every petal, every wing beat, every gentle brush of fur or feather can be part of this silent conversation between plants and the creatures that visit them. It is how plants speak across distances, how they create seeds, and how life continues from season to season. At its heart, pollination is the journey of pollen from one flower to another. Pollen is produced by the male parts of a flower, and it must reach the female parts of another for fertilization to happen. Once there, it helps form seeds, which grow into the next generation of plants. This process allows plants to reproduce without needing to move. Instead, they invite the world to come to them. Some plants rely on the wind to carry their pollen. You might see them release great clouds of dust-like grains, hoping that a breeze will deliver them to just the right place. But many plants choose a more focused path. They produce sweet nectar, bright colors, and gentle fragrances to attract animals. Bees, butterflies, birds, bats, and even beetles become the quiet couriers of the plant world. As these visitors search for food, they brush against pollen. It clings to legs, wings, or fur, and is unknowingly carried to another flower. There, it rubs off and begins its work. This act, so small and often unnoticed, supports the growth of fruits, seeds, and future plants. Every apple, every sunflower, every pod of peas owes its existence to the success of this dance. Pollinators have evolved to fit specific flowers, and flowers have evolved to suit their pollinators. A hummingbird's beak curves to match a blossom. A bee's body carries electric charge that helps pollen stick. Night-blooming flowers wait for moths or bats. Some plants even produce ultraviolet patterns visible only to insects, like hidden landing lights guiding them to the prize. This relationship is ancient and finely tuned, but it is also fragile. Pollution, pesticides, and the loss of wild habitats have caused pollinator populations to shrink. When the dancers vanish, the flowers fall silent. Crops may yield less. Wild plants may stop reproducing. The system weakens. Yet even small steps, like planting native flowers or avoiding harmful chemicals, can help rebuild this web. As you rest tonight, imagine a field full of quiet motion, wings humming gently, flowers nodding in the breeze, invisible threads of pollen carried through the air. There is beauty in the subtle and the small, in the way life helps life without even meaning to. Let the rhythm of this exchange settle in your thoughts, soft and calm, as the planet leans toward another morning. Now we drift into the quiet mystery of seed dispersal, the way plants move without ever lifting a root. Once pollination is complete and seeds have formed, a plant faces its next challenge. It must send its offspring into the world. To grow and thrive, seeds need space, sunlight, water, and soil. But if they remain too close to the parent plant, they may compete for the same resources. So nature, in its gentle inventiveness, has given plants ways to move. These methods are subtle but effective, a mix of patience, timing, and borrowed motion. Some seeds are carried by the wind. Their designs are light and airy, shaped to catch even the smallest breeze. Dandelion seeds float like tiny parachutes, drifting until they find a soft patch of earth. Maple seeds spin like helicopters as they fall, slowing their descent and spreading far. These seeds ask the air for help and trust it to carry them. Other seeds rely on water. Coconuts, enclosed in buoyant husks, travel across oceans to distant shores. Lotus seeds drift through ponds and streams. These journeys are slow, but they allow plants to spread far from their source, arriving gently where land and water meet. The currents of rivers and the tides of the sea become their invisible guides. Animals are perhaps the most reliable messengers. Some seeds are hidden in fruits, sweet and colorful, designed to attract birds, mammals, and insects. When the fruit is eaten, the seeds pass through the digestive system unharmed and are dropped in new locations, often with a bit of fertilizer. Other seeds have hooks, burrs, or sticky coatings that cling to fur or feathers. They hitch a ride, traveling quietly until they are brushed off or shaken loose. Then there are seeds that rely on force. Pea pods dry out and twist, suddenly bursting open to scatter seeds in all directions. Some plants build tension into their tissues, waiting for the right moment to fling seeds away. These methods may be tiny explosions, brief and unnoticed, but they serve a purpose. The seed lands far enough to find its own light, its own place in the world. Each strategy is shaped by need. Some plants invest in many seeds, hoping a few will survive. Others make only a handful but guard them carefully. Some seeds wait for fire, others for flood, others for passing feet or the change in seasons. The timing is always part of the plan. As you rest now, imagine a quiet forest floor or an open field. Picture seeds floating, falling, flying, some hidden, some carried, some waiting, all of them small stories beginning in silence. Each seed carries the hope of a new beginning, the quiet promise of growth. Let that thought settle over you like drifting petals, soft and full of tomorrow. Now we step gently into the intricate bonds of symbiosis, where life does not live alone but reaches out and intertwines. In nature, relationships are rarely simple. Organisms share more than just space. They often rely on each other in deep, quiet ways that stretch beyond survival. Symbiosis is the science of these living partnerships. It describes how two or more different species live together, shaping each other's lives through closeness, cooperation, or even conflict. Symbiosis takes many forms. Some relationships are mutual, where both partners benefit. Others are one-sided, where only one gains while the other remains unchanged. And some are parasitic, where one thrives at the expense of the other. Each type plays a role in the complex fabric of ecosystems. These bonds are not rare or special. They are everywhere, woven into the lives of plants, animals, fungi, and bacteria. One of the most well-known mutualistic relationships is between bees and flowers. Bees collect nectar for food and, in doing so, help pollinate the plants. Both thrive because of this gentle exchange. Another example lies beneath our feet. Mycorrhizal fungi wrap around plant roots, helping them absorb water and nutrients. In return, the plants share the sugars they make through photosynthesis. This quiet trade helps forests grow stronger and more connected. In the animal world, the clownfish and sea anemone are partners. The fish finds safety among the anemone's stinging tentacles, which it alone can tolerate. In return, it cleans and defends the anemone, and even lures prey into its reach. Coral reefs also depend on symbiosis. Tiny algae live inside coral, feeding the coral with energy from the sun. Without these algae, the coral would starve. When the ocean warms, the algae leave, and the coral turns white and weakens. Not all symbiosis is mutual. Some birds build their nests near crocodiles, taking advantage of the reptile's fierce presence to deter predators. The crocodile gains nothing, but it tolerates the company. Parasitism, too, is a form of symbiosis. A tick feeding on a deer or a tapeworm living inside an animal's gut benefits at the host's expense. These relationships are often viewed as negative, but they also play roles in population control and ecosystem balance. Even inside your body, symbiosis is at work. Trillions of microbes live in your gut, helping you digest food, fight disease, and produce vitamins. You are not a single organism, but a shared space, shaped by coexistence. Life itself may have begun with symbiosis. The very cells that make up your body carry ancient traces of merged organisms that once lived separately. As you drift toward rest, imagine these threads of connection. A flower depending on a bee, a tree feeding fungi through its roots, a coral glowing with light from its algae. Every partnership is a quiet agreement, a shared breath of purpose. Let that sense of togetherness carry you now, soft as moss and strong as stone. Now we move into the quiet but powerful story of invasive species, where nature's balance is shifted by new arrivals. In every ecosystem, there is a rhythm formed by thousands of years of slow adjustment. Plants, animals, fungi, and microbes evolve together, finding roles and boundaries that allow the system to hold. But when a new species enters from elsewhere and begins to grow unchecked, that balance can tilt. This is the story of how change, though natural, can sometimes arrive too fast. An invasive species is one that spreads beyond its original home and begins to dominate an ecosystem. It often has no predators in its new environment, no disease to slow it, and no competition strong enough to hold it back. Freed from limits, it can grow quickly, spreading across fields, forests, or waterways. And as it grows, it often pushes other species out. Some invasives arrive by accident. Seeds cling to the bottom of boats or hide in shipments of goods. Insects travel in wooden crates. Animals are released from captivity or escape into the wild. Other times, they are brought on purpose for farming, landscaping, or pest control, only to escape their intended roles. However they arrive, they begin to rewrite the rules of their new homes. One of the most famous examples is the cane toad in Australia. Introduced to control pests, it quickly spread and became a problem itself. In the Great Lakes of North America, zebra mussels arrived in ballast water from ships. They now cover underwater surfaces, clog pipes, and outcompete native species. Kudzu, a fast-growing vine from Asia, has taken over forests and roadsides in the southern United States, smothering trees in thick green blankets. Invasive species can change soil chemistry, block sunlight, disrupt food chains, and cause native animals to vanish. Sometimes the damage is visible. Sometimes it is slow and hidden, creeping through the roots of the land. Islands are especially vulnerable, as their ecosystems are small and delicate. A single new predator can wipe out a bird that has never learned to fear. Not all newcomers are harmful. Some adapt quietly and become part of the mix. But when a species causes ecological harm, economic loss, or health risks, it is labeled invasive. Managing them can be difficult. Once established, they are hard to remove. Prevention, early detection, and careful regulation are often the best tools. As you settle into stillness tonight, imagine a field slowly changing. A new vine climbs higher each season. A different bird song echoes through the trees. One plant spreads while another fades. Nature always changes, but when change comes too quickly, it can overwhelm. Let this story remind you how delicate and connected the world is, and how small shifts can echo far. Let the quiet balance return to your thoughts, soft and steady, as night deepens around you. Now we drift into the silent chapter of extinction, when nature lets go of a species forever. Extinction is not sudden in the way thunder cracks or a tree falls. It is quiet and slow, a fading of voices until one day there is no sound at all. A bird's song is no longer heard. A shadow no longer moves through the forest. A name once whispered among plants and creatures vanishes from the living world. Extinction is final. It is when a lineage ends and a branch of the tree of life closes for good. Extinction is a natural part of evolution. For every species alive today, countless others have come and gone. Dinosaurs once ruled the earth. Strange marine reptiles swam in shallow seas. Ancient trees towered in prehistoric swamps. These worlds faded slowly over millions of years, shaped by climate, by movement of continents, by the slow pressure of time. Life adapted, changed, and moved forward. But in today's world, extinction happens faster than nature can replace what is lost. Some species disappear because their environment changes too quickly. A warming climate may melt the snow a creature needs to hide. A drying wetland may leave birds without food. Pollution can poison the waters fish swim in. Others vanish when invasive species arrive, bringing new predators, competition, or disease. And some disappear simply because of human activity. Forests are cleared, rivers are dammed, hunting goes unchecked. The space for wild things grows smaller and more fragmented. Every extinction affects the web of life. When a species vanishes, its absence echoes. The animals that fed on it must find something new. The plants that pollinated go unvisited. The balance it helped maintain begins to tilt. Sometimes that ripple is small. Other times it cascades through an entire ecosystem. The loss of one piece weakens the whole. There are names we remember. The passenger pigeon once flew in flocks that darkened the sky. The dodo walked the shores of islands now empty of its kind. The Tasmanian tiger's striped back no longer haunts the forests of Australia. And then there are those whose names we never knew, creatures who disappeared before we even saw them. Still, extinction does not always come without resistance. Conservation efforts around the world work to protect endangered species. Laws are passed, sanctuaries are created, seeds are stored. Breeding programs try to bring life back from the edge. Though not all can be saved, each act is a reminder that life is precious and that forgetting is not the only path forward. As you lie in stillness, imagine a forest where a bird's call once rang, but now only wind remains. Let that absence remind you how rare and fleeting each form of life is. And let the silence become a space for care, for memory, and for a deeper respect for all that still remains. Now we turn to the quiet strength of succession, the way nature begins again after disturbance, slowly rebuilding layer by layer. Succession is not a rush. It is a gentle unfolding, a process that moves over years, decades, even centuries. After fire sweeps across a hillside or a glacier melts away, it may seem that the land is empty, but life does not wait. It returns, first in whispers, then in waves. Grasses take hold, mosses stretch over stone, seeds fall and sprout. Animals follow. What once seemed barren begins to pulse with quiet possibility. There are two main forms of succession. Primary succession begins where there was no life before. It happens on new volcanic rock, on lands scraped bare by ice, or along the edges of new islands rising from the sea. In these places, the soil must be built from scratch. Tiny organisms like lichens and bacteria are the first to arrive. They break down stone, trapping dust and moisture. As they live and die, they create the beginnings of soil. Wind carries seeds. Rain shapes the surface. Slowly, more complex plants move in. Secondary succession begins after a disturbance in a place where life once thrived. This could be a forest after a fire, a field after a flood, or land cleared for farming that has been left alone. Because the soil remains, recovery is quicker. Grasses return first, followed by shrubs, then young trees. In time, a mature forest or meadow may take shape again. Though the species may shift, the ecosystem rebuilds. Each stage of succession sets the stage for the next. Early plants grow quickly and tolerate harsh conditions. They prepare the way for others by shading the ground, adding nutrients, or trapping moisture. As the environment changes, different species take their place. Animals come and go, shaped by what the land offers. The path is never fixed. It may pause, reverse, or adapt depending on weather, species, or time. Succession shows us that nature is not static. It is always changing, always moving toward balance. Even in devastation, there is the seed of renewal. This cycle teaches patience. It reminds us that healing is possible, that no wound in the land is ever truly final if left to its own rhythm. As you rest now, Picture an open field where green is slowly returning. Small flowers bloom where ash once lay. Saplings reach toward light. The wind carries spores and hope. Every step forward is quiet, yet sure. Let this slow rebuilding echo in your breath, steady and soft. Nature does not rush. It remembers, waits, and begins again. Now we focus on the keystone species, the quiet anchors of ecosystems, the few that hold the many. In nature, not all species play the same role. Some are abundant but replaceable, while others, though few in number, carry a weight that shapes everything around them. A keystone species is one whose presence supports an entire system. If it is removed, the structure around it may collapse. These species are not always large or obvious. Often, they are hidden in plain sight, doing work that keeps balance steady and life connected. The term comes from architecture. In a stone arch, the central stone at the top is called the keystone. Remove it, and the arch falls. In ecosystems, keystone species hold together relationships that might not survive without them. Their influence stretches far beyond their size or number. They may shape the land, control populations, or create conditions that allow many others to thrive. A classic example is the sea otter. In coastal waters, sea otters feed on sea urchins. Without otters, the urchin population explodes and begins to consume kelp forests. These forests are essential habitats for fish, birds, and marine life. When otters are present, they keep urchins in check, and the kelp thrives. Their appetite becomes a form of quiet protection. Wolves in Yellowstone offer another story. When reintroduced after many years, the wolves changed the entire park. They hunted elk, which allowed overgrazed areas to recover. Trees grew back along riverbanks. Birds returned. Beavers came and built dams, creating ponds that nurtured fish and amphibians. The river even changed its shape, slowed by the new vegetation. One predator set off a chain reaction of renewal. Some keystone species are builders. Beavers change landscapes by creating wetlands that host countless species. Elephants shape savannas by knocking down trees, making room for grasses and smaller animals. Coral, though tiny, builds reefs that protect coastlines and shelter marine life. These organisms create homes, not just for themselves, but for entire communities. There are also keystone mutualists. Certain bats and birds pollinate or spread seeds for dozens of plants. Without them, forests would struggle to regenerate. Even some ants, through their underground networks, aerate soil and distribute nutrients. Their influence reaches deep and wide, even if they are barely noticed. As you settle into stillness, imagine a single thread that holds a tapestry in place. It is not the brightest or longest, but without it, the design unravels. Let this thought remind you that strength does not always come from size. Sometimes it comes from connection, from quiet roles played faithfully. Rest now, knowing that even the smallest acts can hold great meaning in the web of life. Now we arrive at the powerful rhythm of natural disturbances, the fires, floods, and storms that seem to bring chaos but often carry renewal. In nature, disturbance is not the end of the story. It is a part of the story. Forests burn, rivers swell, winds rise. But after the silence that follows, life begins again. These moments of destruction clear the way for change. They open space for new growth, new balance, and sometimes even stronger ecosystems. Fire is one of the most dramatic forces. A wildfire can sweep across grasslands or forests with astonishing speed, leaving behind ash and silence. But many plants are adapted to fire. Some trees have thick bark that protects their core. Others drop seeds that only open after flames pass. The heat can crack the hard shells of pine cones, allowing seeds to fall to the newly cleared ground. Fire returns nutrients to the soil, removes old vegetation, and opens the canopy to sunlight. In the right pattern and frequency, fire renews. Floods carry both danger and life. When rivers overflow, they can drown the land, wash away soil, and uproot trees. But as waters recede, they leave behind layers of rich silt, full of nutrients. Floodplains become some of the most fertile lands in the world. Plants that survive floods grow back stronger. Aquatic creatures find new pathways. Floods reshape the land, changing where water flows and giving rise to new habitats. Storms bring powerful winds and pounding rains. Trees fall, branches break, and the sky seems to tear itself open. Yet in the aftermath, openings in the forest allow light to reach the ground. Young plants, once shaded, now stretch upward. Animals move into the new spaces. Change ripples through the ecosystem, subtle but steady. Other disturbances may seem less dramatic. Avalanches carve through mountain slopes, droughts dry lakes and silence wetlands. Earthquakes shift the ground itself. These events may seem harsh, but nature has endured them for millions of years. Species adapt, patterns form. In time, balance returns. Not all disturbances are healthy. When too frequent or intense, they can overwhelm recovery. Human activities, like land clearing or pollution, can combine with natural events to make them more destructive. But even then, the impulse to heal remains. Life is persistent. Even in scarred land, the seeds of recovery wait. As you breathe slowly now, imagine a forest after fire. The ground still warm, the sky quiet, and in the soil, tiny green shoots begin to rise. Renewal follows disturbance, always. Nature bends, sometimes breaks, but it reaches again toward light. Let that resilience guide you into rest, knowing that even the fiercest storms carry within them the first signs of calm. Now we come to the role of humans, a species that does not simply live within nature, but reshapes its rules. Every organism alters its environment in some way, but humans have done so on a scale that no other species ever has. From cities that glow through the night to fields that stretch farther than the eye can see, human influence is etched into the land, the water, and the sky. Some of this impact has brought comfort and safety. Much of it has brought imbalance. Understanding our place in nature means facing the ways we change it. Human activity touches nearly every ecosystem on Earth. Forests are cleared for timber and farmland. Rivers are dammed to generate power. Mountains are mined for minerals. Oceans are trawled and coastlines reshaped. Even the air carries our presence, marked by gases that trap heat and alter the climate. Species once abundant have become endangered or gone extinct. Landscapes once wild now follow the lines of roads and fences. Farming, one of humanity's oldest practices, transformed how land is used. It allowed cities to rise and populations to grow, but it also replaced complex ecosystems with simpler ones. Where once stood diverse forests or grasslands, now rows of crops stretch in uniform patterns. Fertilizers and pesticides, while boosting yield, also seep into rivers and soil, affecting organisms far beyond the field. Pollution adds another layer of change. Chemicals released into the air or water can travel great distances, affecting places never touched by industry. Plastics drift across oceans, gathering in distant gyres. Light and noise reach into the deepest forests, altering the behavior of animals who once lived in quiet darkness. Climate change, driven by the burning of fossil fuels, is one of the most far-reaching impacts. It shifts weather patterns, melts glaciers, raises sea levels, and increases the frequency of droughts and storms. Species adapted to one climate must move or perish. Coral reefs bleach. Ice-dependent animals lose their homes. Even the timing of migration and blooming begins to shift. But there is also awareness, and with it, action. People plant trees, protect habitats, restore wetlands, and work to reduce waste. Scientists study how to live more gently on the earth. Laws are passed, and communities come together. The damage is real, but so is the capacity to change direction. As you rest now, imagine a field once cleared, slowly growing wild again. Trees take root. Birds return. A river finds its old rhythm. The land remembers how to breathe. Let this thought stay with you. We are not separate from nature. We are part of it, with the power to harm or to heal. May the night bring peace, and may your dreams hold a vision of balance once more. Now we arrive at resilience, the quiet ability of nature to recover, to mend, and to begin again. Resilience is not about never breaking. It is about the way the world remembers itself, how even in the aftermath of storms, fires, or human touch, life stirs again. Grass pushes through cracks in pavement. Birds return to once silent forests. Wetlands refill after drought. The rhythm of nature, though disturbed, does not forget how to flow. Resilience shows up in many forms. It is the forest that regrows after being logged. It is the coral that slowly rebuilds its reef after bleaching. It is the pollinators that find new flowers when the old ones are gone. Some ecosystems bounce back quickly, others take generations. But there is always a thread of persistence, a pattern of recovery built into the very design of living systems. Each seed that waits patiently in the soil, each animal that adjusts its range, each tree that sends up new shoots from scorched roots. These are acts of resilience. Even the earth itself, over its long and ancient life, has shown this power. It has survived asteroid impacts, ice ages, shifting continents, and great extinctions. And each time, life has returned, sometimes in new forms, always reaching forward. This does not mean that all loss is restored. Some species vanish forever. Some wounds never fully close. But still, the system moves, adjusts, absorbs. The blueprint of healing remains. Humans, too, are a part of this resilience. Around the world, people are restoring forests, rebuilding wetlands, removing dams so rivers can run free. Conservation projects, seed banks, ecological corridors, these are not only tools of science, but symbols of hope. They are proof that we can choose to be part of the healing. We can support the bounce back, even after centuries of harm. Resilience does not mean resistance to change. In fact, it often requires change, flexible roots, adaptable behaviors, shared strength. In the great network of life, everything is connected, and through those connections, the power to recover is passed along. When one part weakens, others can lend support. When pressure comes, balance can shift, but not break. As you sink into rest tonight, imagine a quiet forest after a storm. The air is still, leaves are scattered, but in the soil, roots hold firm. In the sky, a bird circles again. If you've made it all the way through this series, thank you. You've just gently absorbed the entire science of how nature works, and hopefully found peace in the process. Let us know in the comments which country you're watching from. We'd love to see where nature's story has reached. And if you'd like another series like this, tell us what to explore next. The universe, the brain, the oceans. What would you love to fall asleep to next? Good night, and may your dreams be rooted, alive, and always reaching toward light.